We are reading today from the very first chapter of Mark. So if you are at home, feel free to grab your Bible. If you're with us, hopefully you brought it. Otherwise, we'll have it on the screen. Our passage comes from Mark chapter 1, verses 21 through 28. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to preach. The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Just then, a man in their synagogue who was possessed by an impure spirit cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," said Jesus sternly. "Come out of him." The impure spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. The people were all so amazed that they asked each other, "What is this? A new teaching, and with authority. He even gives orders to impure spirits, and they obey him." News about him spread quickly over the whole region of Galilee. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let's pray. Lord God, as like those who gathered in the synagogue that day, may we hear your word. Might we not only hear it, but might we see something of you that changes us. Might we recognize that you are more than just a teacher, but the Son of God. We ask it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Well, friends, if you follow the Bible study that we do every day, 2 o'clock, you know that the book that we did before Romans, where we're at right now, was the book of Mark. And way back at the beginning of that study, you might remember this particular passage. We are literally just 21 verses into that gospel. And this is a unique thing about Mark. Mark just skips by all of the childhood stuff. We don't have any what you would call Christmas stories in Mark. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus is baptized right away. God says, "This is my son in whom I'm pleased." And then from that point on, Jesus goes about his ministry. He gets his disciples, and here we are, verse 21. Jesus is now for the first time already in a synagogue, in worship, proclaiming his gospel, proclaiming the good news. It only takes 21 verses to get there, and we're already here. And what's interesting is the people who are in the synagogue this day are amazed, blown away. They say, "This is a person who teaches with authority." I was thinking about it this week, and it struck me, at least I'm not aware of it, I don't think there's any place in the Gospels that describe what Jesus was like as a teacher or preacher. It never describes what his cadence was or what his effect was on the crowd. And it had me wondering, was Jesus one of those wag your finger and let people know that you're trying to make a point at them kind of teachers? Was Jesus one of those let's reflect and pause to make sure that you're with me this morning kind of preacher? Was he one of those preacher's voice kind of preachers? And well, I'm glad you're with us this morning. What was Jesus' style of presentation? Because the Gospels never make it seem that it's his charisma that draws people to him. It's something deeper and more meaningful than that. And yet this day, the Gospel writer Mark makes it clear the people in that sanctuary, the people there for worship on just another day of Sabbath, were amazed by this person who came with a new teaching and with authority. Authority is an interesting word in this moment because in so many ways we've been wrestling with authority as a culture. Who should we give authority to? Who should we give credence to? What is authority and what is Christian authority? I smile. I don't know if you ever see this. Occasionally on the news networks, they will have someone who is commenting on a particular thing, and then, they're talking about something obscure like, federal international oil trade policy, right? And they have an expert from some Harvard think tank, and then they put up a tweet from George F. 213. And you think, oh, I don't know who George F213 is, but I'm glad that they get to comment with the Harvard person, right? Well, why did they have the authority to speak and not someone else? What about position? Is a position the source of authority? Is it that you were named CEO or you're the manager? Is that authority? Does authority come from some degree? Does it come from charisma? Where do we see authority in other people? It seems apparent that Jesus' authority didn't come from any of these things. He didn't have a PhD. Jesus wasn't given a position of power. Jesus had something innate that gave him authority to speak, not just into people's lives, but change the circumstances of their lives. And this is important that we recognize that the gospel writers didn't think it important to tell us that Jesus was charismatic or that he wasn't. That they wrote of Jesus everything we need to know for our life and our faith. And what they wanted us to know is that when you saw Jesus, you would see authority in him. This word authority in the original language has all of that sense that you think. Authority, it means power. It insinuates that there's a weight to your person. But it also has a sense of moral authority. The only kind of authority that God could have to say right and wrong. And this is who Jesus was. It was innate to his being. He had authority because of who he was. I wonder if you've ever had this experience. I got to have this in seminary. Both Pastor Clint and I shared a professor. When he went to seminary and then when I went to seminary, the professor had gone from one seminary to the other. And his name is Dr. Darrell Guder. And he is, as a theologian, the person who has literally written the book on what you call missional theology. That's a whole genre of theology almost coined by Dr. Guder. And what is interesting when you're in the room with someone who has literally written the book, and they ask the question, so what do you think this book meant in chapter 1, paragraph 2 about this thing? And you realize he's asking you, what did I mean when I wrote the book you read? Now listen, I've done book reports, and it is great when you're writing a book report about a person who's not there to tell you what they actually thought. But when the person who wrote the book is in the room, it is hard to not look like you didn't read the book if you're making stuff up. Not that I ever did that. Never. Friends, the truth is, Jesus Christ as creator, as redeemer, as sustainer is literally the one who wrote all of the books. He's the one who wrote everything that matters. And as he stood in that sanctuary, he was the authority that was clearly seen by all those that gathered. And, I think it's interesting when we explore what that would mean to encounter Jesus, to have him stand in front of us and to see him preach. A practice I have every week that I preach is in the very beginning of the week, once I find the text, I just read the story and I just imagine myself in it. I just imagine what it would be like. And this week, it was wonderful because I was sitting right there. And Jesus was up here and he was teaching and I was with all of the congregation and I'll tell you, I was amazed. The Son of God is preaching right now, and I'm seeing it and hearing it. And then he casts out an evil spirit over here. And at the end of this imaginary encounter with the story, I followed Jesus out of the sanctuary. I was promptly named the 13th and best disciple. It was great. It was great until the week went on and I started digging in and started doing some of the research, started thinking about where this text might take us this morning. And then I realized I was in the wrong seat. I wouldn't be sitting in the congregation looking at Jesus preaching. I would be sitting over here with the teachers of the law. And then it struck me, yeah, I guess I do a lot of teaching about the law. And what would have it felt like to be this guy sitting here while Jesus teaches, seeing the congregation say, hey, this guy's a lot better than the normal dude? When our entire life is invested in being teachers of the law, we miss the source of the law when he arrives. The temptation is to be those people who come to worship, who come to learn, and we miss the very one who embodies those lessons when he shows up in our life. I once had the honor of going to a colleague's retirement. He's really become a spiritual mentor of mine. And after a long, long career as pastor in the Presbyterian church, he got to retire. And I got to go to that service, and I got to be part of it. And after the service, I, just a couple years into the ministry, asked this wise veteran of the ministry, what have you learned? What do you have to share with those newbies starting out? And he said, you know, Michael, a thing that I learned was there's only one thing that matters in ministry. He said, show them Jesus. And how you live and what you say and what you do and how you teach, show them Jesus. And lest you think that this is just advice for pastors, as Reformed people, we believe deeply in this thing we call the priesthood of all believers. Those words are for all of us. Do we show the world Jesus? Do we live our faith in such a way that they can see in us the authority of Jesus Christ, the one who amazed each person in that room? The story in Mark may be a little different, some of the other stories of Jesus in the sanctuary, because what doesn't happen here is the teachers of the law don't get after Jesus. Not yet. That's just a couple chapters as you go. On this Sunday, Jesus saw a man who spoke out, a man with an impure spirit, the text says. And I'm afraid that when we hear this as modern people, the first thing we think of is how uncomfortable it is. The idea that someone in the back might stand up and start yelling at the preacher. We start wondering, is that a psychological illness? Is this person in need of help? And we miss what Mark is trying to show us. That there is a man who cannot speak for himself. The Spirit speaks for him. This man is a bondage to a force other than himself. And Jesus Christ, seeing this man in bondage, is able to not just teach the law, this is how you should live. Jesus can speak to the source of evil and say, be gone. What we encounter in Jesus is not just a teacher about something, but one who reveals the truth of who God is. When evil meets Jesus, he doesn't teach it out of existence. He rids it of existence. When Jesus comes, he brings freedom to those who are oppressed. Jesus not only silences the demon, but he teaches a new teaching with authority. And I wonder if that authority is the thing that we should focus on today. Because that authority brings freedom, not just to those with an impure spirit. It brings freedom to each and every person with the faith to believe. When Jesus comes and teaches, he shows us a path that's more inclusive than oppositional. Think about all the times that the teachers of the law got after Jesus for the company he kept at night. Jesus and his teaching is more permissive. It's less legalistic. Think of all the times the disciples got in trouble because they didn't follow the rules of the other teachers. Jesus is more interested in forgiveness than he is in holding grudges. Jesus is more gracious and less shame-filled than those others. Jesus believed more in peace and far less in fear. And we live in a moment in which that is exactly the authority that we need in our lives. One who opens us to a new way of living, who makes us free, so that we don't need to be caught in the midst of opposites and fights and divisions. We don't need to be swayed by this idea or that idea. Instead, we can see the one in front of us who reveals the way to true freedom, who has the authority to change our lives. If we're going to be honest, we struggle with these things. In fact, I wonder if as people of faith, in some ways, we don't struggle even more. When we spend our entire life studying the faith, it's good. But the temptation is to begin to believe that we have it all figured out. The temptation is to sit here and be offended when the people in the congregation say, wow, he teaches with authority. I wonder if all of us would do well to practice the humility of admitting, Lord Jesus, show yourself to us again. Help us to live in the freedom that you've called us to live in. Help us to become the people you've called us to be. In the midst of the days in which we live, there are literally millions of people who would love to offer us teachings without authority. The question is, what will we model our life on? My invitation for you today is to consider whose voice do you let be the loudest in your life? When your TV is on, what are you watching? When you're reading, who wrote it? When it comes time for you to engage in conversation, what topics come up most often? Might we be challenged to turn to the author and perfecter of our faith? Might we focus on the one who not only teaches, but the one who teaches with authority? Because, friends, I dare say, if we were able to see Jesus, we might be able to show Jesus. And if we could show Jesus, then I believe that we too would be amazed at what God can do. Thanks be to God. Amen.